Good morning, everybody. Hi. It's Wednesday morning. I'm so glad that you're here to join us on Banter with Beth. I am speaking to you from the Chumash Nation in Ojai, California, and I'm Beth. I am wearing a kind of multicolored, Indian print oranges and pinks, and I have a white wall behind me with lots of pictures and photographs and paintings. And I'm so thrilled to bring on my next guest, Dr. Shay Pilnick, who, let me see if I can just bring him on here. Fish Center. Let's see if it's coming on. I think I didn't do it properly. I'm trying. I'm having like technical challenges this morning, you guys. There we go. There he is. Okay. Great. I don't know why it's giving me a hard time to... There we go. Okay, now I know it. Okay, I'm good. There we go. Yay. Stressful, but it's not. All right. I think we're good. I think Dr. Pilnick is about
Hi,
to...
Beth.
Oh, there we go. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I have to say, we're making history. This is my first time on Instagram.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
normally when I project videos on my computer, I'm in my son's bedroom, and all you can see is the wall. And then I put a background. But right now you can actually see the bed.
Oh,
So this is the professional reality and parenthood.
you know
Having a dialogue with each other in
we
the summer of 2021.
That's right. It's true. It's true. It makes us feel like we've been transported. We're traveling across the country. You're in New York, I'm in California, but here we are, and we get to have a cup of coffee together or whatever anybody else is drinking, orange
Wonderful.
juice, water, tea.
I'll
Oh,
have water.
very nice. Very nice. How is New York City today?
It's wonderful. I actually live in the greater New York area,
Oh, no.
meaning that I don't even live in New York State. I'm one of those people who moved to Stamford, Connecticut.
Nice.
Um, I became the director of the Fish Center about a year and a half ago and moved here close to a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, and I was told by the old timers in Connecticut that the Jews of New York normally think that White Plains borders with Canada, and they don't even have places like Stamford or New Haven on their map. But in fact, Stamford, Connecticut is a very convenient bed suburb of, uh, of New York City.
Yes, it is. Well, we were in Pelham, New York for 13 years. We're very familiar with that neck of the woods and loved it. We were there until we moved out here to California in 2007. So
Hmm.
we love that part of the world. Very green and leafy and beautiful. I'm sure Stanford is the same way.
Yes, yes, that's wonderful. I apologize that it took me a couple of minutes to connect.
Oh no, I'm
And now, thanks to you, Beth, the Fish Center has an Instagram account.
Yes, yes. And so that's where we are. We're on the Fish Center U. So that anyone who's logging in right now, if they aren't already following you, they should go ahead and follow you. And please do the same thing. Follow us over here at Beth Lane Film, because we have a lot in common. We have a lot to share. We're both, I think, very, very invested in Holocaust awareness, Holocaust education. And you specifically are in the post that you're in right now to really expand the whole concept of educating educators, so that according to an article, your op-ed a year ago, April 2020, it's kind of staggering to see that most students get about 90 minutes of Holocaust education. That is just mind-blowing to me, mind-blowing. So let's go back a little bit. Let's start at the beginning. How did you
My
first,
pleasure, my
how
pleasure.
did you, how did you begin your career, and how did your career then evolve into the position you had in Wisconsin, and now, of course, the position that you have at Yeshiva University. But where did it all start for you?
So I think in a very typical way, I did not, you know, decide at some point as a young man that I would like to pursue a career in Holocaust studies or in Holocaust education. That's very typical. Now, when we are recruiting students for our master's degree in Holocaust and Genocide Studies, I see that the majority of our prospective students are not um, 21, normally 21-year-old recent college graduates who made up their mind that they would like to pursue a career in Holocaust studies. For me, as a grandson of Holocaust survivors, I always say that my Holocaust education began when I was 5. It began at home. It didn't begin at school. Um, and I have to say that I was very curious about the legacies of my grandparents. I grew up with grandparents to whom I was both physically and emotionally very close. And yes, I did not think that I will be a Holocaust educator. On the contrary, it's a subject that I wanted to run away screaming from, and it's a subject that I felt is burdensome. I'm used to saying that I always say that I sometimes feel that the field chose me more than I chose it.
Mm-hmm.
I did pursue academic training in Jewish history, Jewish literature, Jewish culture. I went to recover the languages of my grandparents. Their mother tongues were Russian and Yiddish, and I came later in my life to master both languages in different, maybe to different degrees of perfection. But I really wanted to learn about the lives the Jews lived, the lives of my great-grandparents, whom I never got a chance to meet. So my education was more on what was lost during the Holocaust rather than the mass murder process itself. As a Holocaust educator, I will say, I believe that this is a dimension of Holocaust education that's sometimes missing. That in a way we tell the story of the Jews as objects being thrust into a pit or a ravine or pushed into a gas chamber, and we sometimes unknowingly objectify them. But a much more honorable way to look at them is to actually learn about their lives, celebrate their lives, look at some cultural, sociological trends that took place within their lives. There was a big difference between my grandparents and their parents, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't really answered your question yet. I'd say that when I graduated with a PhD, that again only dealt more, I would say, dealt partially with the Holocaust. I saw a job opening for the director of the Holocaust Education Resource Center in Milwaukee. And I thought to myself, wow, as a professor, if I'm lucky to get a job as a professor, I may be impacting about 30 people a year, of which probably 20 wouldn't even be listening to me. They would be on their phones while I'm speaking. But as a community leader, I can really contribute to shaping Holocaust memory for the future. So I realized that this is a task that's too important for me to forego. And I knew that it would also come with a great deal of pain, dealing with people who went through their own traumas, not just, my grandparents. Um, uh, but I see it as service. I see it as a way of serving the Jewish people and humanities in a unique way. And here I am. So I think now I did answer the question.
Yes. No, I think you did. I think you did. There's um, there's a painful resemblance to what happened in the 20s, 30s, 40s to what is happening in our country today. It's kind of mind-blowing. It's as if we're watching politics in slow motion, and not just politics, but our neighbors, our fellow people who are still flocking with, you know, great fervor and adulation for someone who actually thinks that they could be an authoritarian figure for how things should be playing out. And the question I really want to ask you isn't so much about the political arena and the elected officials and so forth, whether they're in office today or not, but really about our our fellow neighbors here in this country, and what is happening that is allowing them to feel that it's okay to vilify anyone and to just, you know, I don't know. I think that I'm trying to really understand the root core and cause as to why somebody would feel so threatened by another human being that they feel that they should be removed from the earth.
I think that there's a lot of things we feel very uncomfortable knowing about ourselves. Look, I, like any human being, am not a big fan of listening to criticism. I'm much better sitting at a meeting with a fellow, with a supervisor or a teacher, listening to compliments. How would you feel about somebody critiquing, criticizing, not you as a person, but your family? How would you feel about people criticizing you as a member of the Jewish people? How would you feel about somebody criticizing you as a part of humanity? You know, so we like to celebrate the gifts of humanity. I can go back to Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky. I mentioned before my penchant to Russian, who in the Brothers Karamazov, one of his most famous novel, has this scene of one of the brothers talking about the cruelty of animals that can never reach the inventiveness and the cruelty of human beings. That an animal may prey another animal. Animals can actually share a great deal of cruelty to each other, but they will never think about, you know, a gas chamber, for instance. They would never think about torturing children and killing them in the presence of their parents and jeering and laughing at them. The Holocaust teaches us that humanity is not as great, is not as virtuous as we sometimes like to do. The sociologist Zygmunt Bauman wrote a book back in the mid to late 80s called Modernity in the Holocaust, in which he, if I can give you the thesis of the book on one foot, as we like to say, you know, the gist of it is that the modern age brought with itself so many, you know, advancements to our life. But at the same time, it also brought with it Auschwitz and the possibility of a future Auschwitz. Again, I'm fully aware of the fact that I haven't really answered the question. So now I will. The human mind is wired, I think, towards an us versus them way of looking at the world. Great, I think, eras in history of tolerance would unfortunately give way to eras of intolerance. A lot of the tolerant world of cooperation, collaboration between people, between different nations, is a product of the Holocaust. The European Union is a product of the Holocaust. The United Nations is a product of the Holocaust. And sadly, we see the world about 80 years later moving back to a different mode of doing business, which I think is more or less going back to the human being's most basic instinct. The instinct of, you don't look like me, you don't speak like me, you sometimes don't believe in the same God that I do, I hate you. First of all, even I think before hatred, I recognize you as a threat. And if I don't do something about it, you're going to eliminate me. So I should, as the Hebrew Bible prescribes, get up in the morning to kill you before you kill me. It's a binary understanding of the world, in which there's only enemies and only friends and foes. Adolf Hitler was very much of a thinker of that sort. He did not prescribe the killing of Jewish babies because he believed in, he believed that barbarism or murder are fun. He actually believed that a Jewish baby would grow up to become an enemy of Germany. And I think that we do see around the world today this kind of a mindset turning into an ideology, turning dangerously into a political program, increasing. Now, what do? Is it inevitable? Is it inevitable that at some point human beings are just going to kill each other? I can't speak to that. We do have one possibility of avoiding that fateful catastrophe by using education. If we could only let young people today who are inclined, who are already exposed to the us and them mentality, to maybe open their minds to seeing what happened when that us versus them worldview reigned supreme, when that mentality was implemented all the way through. That's one of the key lessons of the Holocaust. Why is it happening today? There's many reasons for that. But one reason is that we are too far removed from the catastrophe of the Holocaust. After the Holocaust, Adolf Hitler and the Nazis had very few sympathizers. I think people, for the most part, saw what that ideology led to. Today, you need to invest in education. You need museums. You need teachers in order to confront the young generation with the dangers of hatred, racism. For my grandparents' generation, or America's greatest generation, they saw it. They lived through that experience.
So what you're doing at Yeshiva University specifically is trying to get content to educators so that they can educate. I think when you wrote, or when you were in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, at that time there were 11 states that had the mandate for Holocaust education. I think the numbers now are up to 16. I think we have 16 states. So tell us what kinds of challenges you've run up against in terms of getting educators to come on board, getting state boards to agree with the concept of Holocaust education being mandated. Do you think the mandate is working? And is there another way that you think might be more successful?
The mandate is, I think that the word mandate is a misnomer for what we're trying to accomplish. The word mandate is also a two-edged sword. The people who believe there should be a mandate, like the word mandate because they feel we need to mandate this subject.
Right.
Teachers cannot get away with not teaching it. The detractors of the mandate say, how can you dictate it? How can you teach me what to do? There's also a divide between lawmakers and the lay leadership that like, to operate via mandates, to think about education through mandates, and the educators themselves and the teachers themselves, who normally like to have the discretion to choose what you teach. Mm-hmm. The mandates to me are a component of a bigger structure, and they are, I would say, even harmful as standalones. In other words, if let's say the state of Minnesota does not have a mandate, um, the state of Wisconsin, by the way, when I worked in Wisconsin, did not have a mandate. And there was a lot that was done. Beautiful job, beautiful work, and collaboration between the community, the volunteers, and the teachers and the students without a mandate.
Great.
So if you imagine that the state of Minnesota now doesn't have a mandate, if tomorrow it had a mandate, that is not a panacea
Right.
for problems of Holocaust education. What's going to happen for the most part is that teachers would know that they need to teach a subject of which they know very little. I will share with you one story. I once taught a class of 8th graders in Fredonia, Wisconsin. I was asked to give like an overview of the Holocaust. You mentioned 90 minutes, so that was the 45 minutes that the students had a chance to. Fredonia is a small town, no Jewish population. And I spoke about anti-Semitism, and I wanted the students to understand that Adolf Hitler did not pick on the Jews out of the blue, but rather was one link in a long chain of German anti-Semites and European anti-Semites and Christian anti-Semites. I wanted to give them the long historical context. At the end of the class, the teacher came to me and said, I have to tell you, Dr. Pilnik, I've never heard it before. I've never even known anything about it before, about anti-Semitism before Hitler. So you have to understand that when you mandate Holocaust education, you do delve into the territory of forcing the art teacher to teach physics. Why do I support the mandate? I support the mandate because I think that the mandate raises the profile of the field. There's a reason why a teacher in Wisconsin is required to teach about Native American history. It's a subject, even though the Native American population in Wisconsin is small, the life and the death of the Native Americans is a critical aspect of what it means to be an American. And when you say that teaching the Holocaust is important in America today, you send a signal to teachers, students, and parents to be a full-blown 21st century man or woman, an American. This is a subject that you really have to engage in. So to me, the mandate is step number one. Step number two is exactly what the Fish Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies purports to do. It's the training program on a graduate level for teachers that would allow them to understand one of the most complicated subjects that I think exists in the humanities and in history. The Holocaust is a very complicated project, and students ask the most basic questions. So the teachers never knew anything about anti-Semitism, 2 millennia of anti-Semitism. Would it surprise you that the students were wondering, what did these people do to deserve so much hatred and violence? They must have done something, you know? Maybe they must have done something in the 1870s or 1860s, or maybe during World War I to deserve so much hatred. That's what happens when you teach the subject without the context. The education on the Holocaust is sick today, and I think a lot of good partners are looking for the cure. For me, the cure is the ability to provide the teachers with all the tools necessary so they understand, first of all, the subject, and they also understand how to teach it. And that's essentially what the Fish Center is going to do with its new master's degree in Holocaust and Genocide Studies that we will be launching in the early fall of 2021 in the new academic year.
That's wonderful. So let's talk specifically about what worked in Wisconsin. You said that you had great collaborators. There were some very successful programs that were happening in Wisconsin, even without the mandate. And I also do support the mandate for the same reasons that you do. And
Me too.
I agree with the challenges of it because it is like an art teacher teaching physics, you know. But what worked? What what tools worked and were successful?
I think that you have to understand that education is to some degree going to be top down, but for the most part is the ground up. It's exactly, by the way, the role of memorials. You know, the memorial is not responsible for remembering. It's the people that pass by the memorial, but look at it, look at the bronze stone and remember what happened. So the responsibility of memory is on the community. The responsibility of education is on the community. The responsibility is on parents. The responsibility is on teachers. And you have to remember, so I think that in an ideal world, there should be no mandates. In the reality, the mandates allow you to reach out to as many school districts as possible and raise awareness of a certain subject. Don't forget, no teacher is going to go to prison for not following the mandate. The fact that New York State now is engaging in a mandate compliance bill shows you that if there was compliance, there would be no need for a mandate compliance bill. And if you ask me, quite frankly, if the mandate compliance bill doesn't work, there will be in the future mandate compliance bills, and so on and so on, right? I mean, at the end of the day, in an ideal world again, there should be no compulsory, the compulsory way of doing business does not belong in education in an ideal world.
Right, but let's
At the same time,
really go to, I really want to get specific about what worked so that we can share that with the people that are watching our Instagram here, or if they watch the replay on YouTube later this afternoon. But what are some of the things that worked, that were successful?
Cultivating a relationship with the community.
Okay.
The teachers that went to Yad Vashem, you lead a group of 25 teachers to Yad Vashem, and when they come back and they feel that they became allies of Holocaust education for the rest of their life. The students that went to Poland, that I traveled to Poland and Lithuania, who visited the killing fields, visited Majdanek in Lublin, visited Auschwitz, and they come back and they feel that this event changed them, and they are going to become, as history teachers, they're going to have a unit on the Holocaust. So Wisconsin actually saw some teachers that developed entire curricula on their own for their school district. Teachers who had Yom HaShoah commemorations at their schools, who engaged in International Holocaust Remembrance Day commemorations. You see, you have to look for the participation of the broad community. You also, I think, have to find ways to make the Holocaust memory relevant. You know, I had workshops on multiculturalism as seen through the lens of the Holocaust. I had events. I had a theater play, for instance, that we offered to middle and high schools. We should be there to enhance the quality of Holocaust history. So it begins with the belief, and I have to say, first of all, of the Holocaust survivor families and the Jewish people. The belief, the strong belief that this subject is very important. And knowing about it is transformative, and transmit this fervent belief, this fervent conviction to other people, and turning it into a community, a learning community, and into a movement. And if you now I speak like an educator, because educators believe in activities that are grassroots. Now, the modern public school is a mandatory entity. So at the end of the day, there will be mandates. but the mandates should not cloud, I would say, the need of individual human beings in communities. And it can be the head of a local museum, it can be the superintendent of a school district, it can be the social studies chair at a high school, and the parents to have the belief that learning about the Holocaust would make their students and their children better people.
Yes, I agree with you. There's a lot to be said for the dwindling numbers that we have of our Holocaust survivors today. And certainly what I'm doing with the film that I'm making, Would You Hide Me? This is an opportunity to share the stories of the four living siblings of the seven who emigrated together. And their stories will fade away unless we commemorate them, unless we uh, continue to tell their stories for them. Tell me, because of your family history and so forth, what is your experience with the Holocaust survivors that you're able to engage with?
Um, Look, the field of Holocaust education is a young field. And the only permanent citing the Buddhists, the only permanent thing in our life is impermanence, right? Is the sense of impermanence. So time is wearing on. We are drawing away from the years of the Holocaust. Teaching about the Holocaust is going to become more and more like learning about the American Civil War, learning about slavery in America, in the sense that we will learn about that piece of history, this historical chapter, without any connection to the human beings who have lived through it. This is inevitable. In many ways, I feel that right now we're starting to truly fight the battle, the great battle for the future of Holocaust education. That at the time when Elie Wiesel was still alive and active, that Holocaust survivors, built the first Holocaust education centers and museums, and the museum in Washington D.C. It was society was fully ready to accept the presence of Holocaust education and respect it. But now, when they are gone, we're experiencing this fracture, and perhaps the first moment when we actually have to truly fight for it, to roll up our sleeves and say, no, this is not just another historical chapter that will be, sooner or later consigned to oblivion, but we really believe that this subject has to be taught in the future, beyond the lives of the survivors and also beyond the lives of their children. Um, there will be a decline in knowledge. There is nothing you can do about it, but hopefully we will be able to provide the students with some base knowledge. When I say inevitable decline, I'll share with you, my children know much less than I do, and they feel much less connected than I do.
Mm.
Because my son, who is going to be 14 next week, he only got a chance to meet my grandparents, his great grandparents, as a young boy. But my grandparents had tremendous impact on me as a child. So learning from survivors remains the most powerful way to learn. And maybe it's even impossible to replicate it. Good luck to those who can come up with a hologram, like the USC Shoah Foundation, a hologram of a survivor telling his story. These are all, in the absence of the real thing, they are the tools technology provides you to be successful. But at the end of the day, I know more because my friends and I, my cousins, my siblings grew up with people who shared with us their personal experiences.
It's, the work that you're doing is, I applaud you. I
And I
continue.
applaud you, and I applaud you, Beth, also for the movie.
Thank you. We're fighting the good fight, and this is something that I have certainly known all my life, but I've really only been working in this area now on a daily basis for the last 3.5 years. This is your entire career that you've been doing this, and I have a feeling we'll continue to do. It's certainly a passion of mine, and sadly find that it is just so relevant today that we must continue to speak up, use our voices, and to truly make people understand that to be silent is to be complicit. And I thank you, Dr. Pilnick, for joining us today. For those of you that have tuned on
It's my
later,
pleasure.
Dr. Shay Pilnick, who is the director of the Fish Center of Holocaust and Genocide Studies at Yeshiva University in New York City. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
You're so welcome, and thank you for telling the story of your family. We should all continue to tell, and memory is transmitted down the generations via families. If you as a daughter of survivors do not care, how would you expect someone whose family has been completely untouched by it care about it? So it starts with us, and I commend you for your work.
Well, thank you. The feeling is mutual, and I look forward to our next conversation. Whenever we can schedule, that would be delightful. But I hope that today you have a wonderful Wednesday, and
You too.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And I so appreciate you taking the time to join us on IGTV today. Really, very, very
You're
grateful.
so welcome. Thank you, Beth, and good luck.
Thank you. You too. All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
So for everybody that's here, thank you for tuning in. This, of course, will be posted on our Instagram, and then later this afternoon, it'll be on our YouTube channel on Beth Lane Film. And next week, we have a special guest, someone from my team, actually, my assistant, Mai Bach, who produced an extraordinary film about children who are soldiers, children carrying guns and so forth. And so we'll be unpacking and discovering her incredible film next week. So we will also post in our link tree today the article in the Times that Dr. Pilnick wrote called "What's Wrong with Holocaust Education Today?" And he really gets into the nitty-gritty about Holocaust education is generalized and how we can actually change that, how we can make it not generalized. So I hope that everybody will take a look at that op-ed when we put that in the link tree. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. You can follow us here. Please follow, like, share, go to our website, bethlane.com. And we're on all the other handles, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I think we might even be starting a TikTok sometime soon. Look out for that. We have a couple of reels that we're going to be posting there. So thank you everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Wednesday. Bye.